Almost there, almost there. All right. And of course, I can't charge it while it's. So I'm just gonna hope for the best. Okay, here we go. Connected the tripod. Let's go. We go camera mode, and okay, offline video one is active, and there's just hopefully one more button I have to press for audio on my phone. And there we go. And my recording is all set up. Jennifer from Internal Affairs, you understand you're on a recorded line, right?
Correct.
And you are aware that I am a adult formerly diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I do have other co-occurring disorders, including treatment-resistant depression. I'm a suicide attempt survivor and all that kind of good stuff. I have a lot of medical diagnoses. So I'm talking with you right now. You've been excellent, and I'm talking with you right now because we've made arrangements for you to get me a copy of Captain Bouchot's original complaint, and right now I'm filing a criminal and procedural, or initiating at least. I like I said, I understand that if there's, I'll likely be asked to sign a sworn statement at some point if my complaint or allegations are substantiated, which will be fine, of course. Everything I'm referring to is memorialized on, on video. So, okay, so my complaint with Captain Bouchot. I guess the easy place to start would be at the time I filed the complaint, he refused to provide me with a copy of my complaint after receiving it, in its entirety, and he did then go on, and so I know we've I'm not asking you to do comment on whether or not he was supposed to, but I do want to note that if he was supposed to, that I did clearly ask, and I do want, as part of the complaint, my videos obviously should be considered. They capture the exchange between he and I. So there are two that can be. In fact, when I get the email from you in a little bit, I can reply with the direct public YouTube links of the videos. It's two parts. The first is about half an hour, second about 12 minutes. I also have a long and rambling preamble on it that will see what happened is when I went to post the videos online. And the reason I posted them is because I haven't been able to get any kind of law enforcement intervention on some very serious crimes since, like I said, I first contacted your department in March 14th of 2019 after a attack, mainly cyber, but now it's escalated well beyond cyber. Started on March 6th, and do understand you do know to call me back if we're disconnected. I will also note that when I spoke with Rebecca yesterday, that with the organizations that have control over my remaining devices I can keep up, will do is they will actually knock out my cell phone for a period. If they do, I'll capture it on video, obviously. But they'll knock out my cell phone for like a period of 5 to 10 minutes, so that if when the person does try to call me back, that it'll go to voicemail. And so that happened when Rebecca first called yesterday. So just so you're aware that happens too. I have your direct line, and I'm sure we can reconnect if they do that. The obstruction of justice I'm alleging occurred. Unfortunately, historically, I'd have my custom-built computers with my 6 monitors. I'd have reference to all my notes, and so I have. But obviously, your investigators will have access to the definition. But obstruction of justice, in short, my understanding is through. Negligence, bad faith. I'm very much paraphrasing it. That an officer's knowingly bad faith behavior leads to the denial of a right or protection that a citizen is responsible for. And so what I'm contending is that he I believe knew I was entitled to a copy of my complaint. In the video, you'll see he scolds me when I quote him the department policy and statute. That after he denied it to me, a copy of the complaint, that he scolds me, but I did, right as he started scolding me, state the policy and statute, and it's, let's see here, I did have my little notebook here. I've de-evolved to a paper system and I suck at it. So I quoted him, I think, policy 1003 in your manual, and I believe it's in point 1, it's in 1003, and it's a copy of the complaint per section. Actually, it's 1003. It might be D. No, that's an and sign. I'm sorry. Penal Code 832.7b. He contended that because the complaint was being made over phone, that I was not entitled to a copy of it. Having reviewed the statutes, of course, I am not an attorney, and I've been wiped out pretty good, so I have no access to one. So I will yield to anyone that is able to cite me an exemption to providing a copy of a phone complaint. But I did review the penal code in that section in its entirety, and there is nothing to suggest that there is any that the complainant loses their right to a copy of the complaint because it's done by phone. In the video, you'll see that and then he denied me a complaint number. Now, I do understand that is not likely at issue because your department, IA, also known as Professional Standards Bureau, that's the same department, right? Right. Your department issues the complaint, and you have just provided me a complaint number. So I thank you for that. But if he was in fact required by law to provide me with a complaint, as it seems to read on its face, and I quoted him the law, and he's also a captain, so I would expect him to know this stuff relatively well. In either case, he is required to, all your sworn officers are required to be familiar with your policy manual, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so he should have known that policy, and so therefore, in the video, I perceived a lot of hostility as the call progressed, and so based on the requirement and his status as a senior officer, or officer I think is not the correct term, but a senior captain at the department, that he would have knowingly have denied me my right to the complaint, and I didn't get any follow-up. The manual says, and I think it's based out of California Penal Code, that a timely follow-up is, although that's very loosely defined, is entitled. I ended up following up with you, who have been great, but that was, I think, about a week or so approximately after I filed the complaint with Captain Bouchot, and didn't receive any response. Also, Captain Bouchot, after denying me the right to file the complaint, or to provide me a copy with it, I asked him, well, how would, I said, how would I, how, when will I hear, when will I, and no complaint number, which, and then, I said, when should I expect to hear something? He says, and he is correct, that California law gives them a year to investigate the complaint. But the way I'll leave it to the investigator that examines this complaint to determine whether he was, whether the statements I perceived he was conveying that I had no expectation to have a follow-up until perhaps up to 12 months. Now, your department's manual says that your department makes an effort to resolve complaints within 90 days. I'm trying not to ask you to confirm things anywhere I don't need to. I've read that. And Jennifer, I did. I know you don't bear any of the responsibility for it. I had just mentioned some of the issues with the manual, and so my concern would be if I'm quoting or trying to file complaints based on policies that may not be the latest, that I'm at a disadvantage, and that I may be filing outdated policies, and I may not be aware of my rights under newer policies. Have you gotten a department response to some of the issues I raised about the manual, the public manual?
Yeah, what is on our website that is the most up-to-date policies and procedures. So when we went through the steps, I think it was on Friday, it sounds as though you are in the correct spot. So what is in the policy is the most recent up-to-date information that's available.
But we confirmed that it says it's up to date as of January of 2012, correct?
Yeah, I saw that. I had asked about that. I don't have an answer for you in regard to that date that was posted at the bottom of one page, but
the middle. Sorry, I have I have a very good memory. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, but yeah, what we have, that is the most up-to-date information on all the policies and procedures. So you are looking in the correct spot.
And that is the manual then your officers are required to be familiarized with, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are familiar with that.
And are you able to confirm whether it has been updated since January 2012?
Yes, I'm very confident that it most likely has been.
Okay, then that would be my guess too. That maybe it just simply that they. I know that's quite a task keeping up with that thing. So it probably was just an oversight that the date didn't get updated to reflect the updated policy manual. Did you find out? I have not yet had a chance to research it, and before I get there to did you ask about the part about the missing hate crime PDFs and attachments at the end?
Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back about that, but I did ask about that, attachments, the missing attachments.
Okay, and can you put in a note? I'm requesting to get I'd like to know if the department what kind of training they have about hate crimes. If the manual that they're going by, I couldn't find anything else on the published. I went through and all the relevant other publications on the website, and so I am as a person with a disability concerned that if your officers don't have the information they need. I was personally, I saw a hate crime checklist, and after my experience with Captain Bichot, I was I thought that would be a good way of doing some due diligence on whether I mentioned that. And so I said, well, that sounds great. I'll go through the checklist and see if I have grounds. And so my concern would be how your field officers patrol officers rather, are evaluating hate crimes. But with that noted, I do. I was being in the video. You can see I'm rushed. I'm cut off at times. And it was, kind of like I am now, but not as, it was a little bit worse then, stuttering some, he did, start kind of, getting a little bit irate about how, we had been on the phone for almost half an hour. I felt, that, considering that I was at the time calling to initiate an investigation into second-degree civil rights felonies against two of his officers, along with a number of policy violations, that he knew I was a person with a developmental disability, often classified as a communication disorder, and that the manual states that victim of a crime and anyone with a disability, as long as any other protected class, race, etc., be that if there is a known or even suspected disability, that particular patience, and I believe they use compassion, is to be shown. And so I felt, by him saying, starting to get adversarial about how I had taken up nearly half an hour of his time trying to file a complaint, a very serious one, then that I wasn't articulating enough because of my anxiety and my stuttering, that I was, at the minimum, experiencing bias-based policing or discriminatory policing, but that that perhaps once again, this is I don't know what was in his mind, and I would let the investigator make the call. Perhaps he felt that he didn't owe me a proper chance to articulate and initiate a complaint because he perceived, with my disability, that I wouldn't have recourse if I were discriminated against. And so I'm holding that I believe I clearly, based on his refusal to provide a copy of the complaint, he effectively obstructed justice. And I'll put that kind of hand in hand with a color of law violation, a federal color of law violation, as I did the original responders, and that he knowingly had a obligation. But let me see here. I want to note that I want a color of law violation looked into, as with a hate crime. I don't feel like I have. I'm sticking with the color of law violation for the initial complaint, but what I'm most concerned about is obstruction of justice with Bouchot, and I'd like it investigated. I don't have the legal sophistication at this time, nor am I qualified to make a determination about whether a color of law civil rights crime occurred or a hate crime occurred. So I'm just requesting that internal IA investigate those two. Okay.
Okay.
Also, so that covers the criminal part, and once again, the basis of the obstruction of justice is that I don't know, that by intentionally denying me a right I was entitled to, and making a false statement to do so, that negated. Well, obviously I didn't get my right to review my complaint, so that's pretty black and white. But also, given his demeanor and affect and so forth, I wanted to check it for discrepancies. I understand I'll not have the opportunity to do so. I do want to request that I imagine he would have likely generated his written complaint at or closely to the time I called, and he would have done so electronically, right? Do you know if the original was?
So the way that it works, just to kind of give you some background and some history to try to help with the situation. So if someone calls in with a complaint, like you said, we can definitely take that over the phone. At the time, a complaint number is not generated, so that happens after. So that's why you didn't get it at that time.
Understood.
But in regard to your concerns with him not providing a copy of the complaint immediately. So there are a few ways that this happens. So if a person calls in with a complaint, they speak with someone. There can be an email sent, or a phone call can be made. So one of those two things happen. So with regard to you wanting to make sure that we received everything that you were concerned about, and we completely understand what you would like looked into. I will that I'll gather and we'll get you a copy of that, so you have that official copy of.
Oh, I know. We've made those arrangements. And
that may be why. I think the way that the complaint was taken. So sometimes that's why we encourage people to either mail or email or come in and file a complaint in person, or like I said, by mail, because it's something that we can take and it's in your words, your writing, and we would then give you a copy of that. So if someone turns in a complaint in person, they get a copy of it immediately. So there is a bit of a delay when it's on the phone, just because we have to, type it up or talk to someone about it and then generate, the work to get you a copy. So that may be why.
Well. Now you type it up certainly, but talk to someone about it. That's part of the investigation. That's not part of, okay, I've typed up your complaint, and then, like you said, it can be emailed, and just so the reason I'm filing complaints over the phone is because I am a little, frankly, I know Rebecca is diligently working on finding me law enforcement that is respectful of my disabilities. My understanding is that Captain Bouchot, and during the email that I'll send you the YouTube links in response to the email I get from you. And I'll, since I blasted it across the county administrators, none of them responded. I don't know if they got it or if they tried to reply and I didn't get it, whatever. I just wanted to put on those. I'll forward you a copy of that with my preamble, and since you're getting a copy of that, I'll try to shorten it up even more for you, as I do articulate quite a bit of what I'm articulating to you now in writing, but at the time I hadn't done as much research. But Captain Bouchot, when I asked him, why can't I have a copy of the complaint you're generating? He gets argumentative, and he says that, it'll be up to IA whether or not they want to provide you a copy. And I said, but you're typing a copy of the complaint. Is there a reason I can't have, what you're typing? And he gives me we prefer phone, or, if you want to come in. And I do know California law says, if I, come pick up a complaint form, download it off the internet, write it out and bring it in, that they will, I can ask that they, sign that they've received it and give me a copy of the complaint I turned in. I have an anxiety disorder, obviously, and I've had a very bad experience with your department, and I didn't feel really great about. And I also, as a person with a communication disorder, have had some really bad experiences in the past. Like I said, I've never been arrested, but just being threatened by officers who don't understand. I'm not aware. I'm talking loudly and threatened to arrest me for shouting at them. And so I didn't feel really good about coming down to the station. And I also, because of the crime spree that began on March 6th of 2019 and that your officers did not discharge their duties and lied to me about why they weren't going to. Well, we have that going, so I'm not going to rehash that. But since then, I don't have. I can't. I bought 2 printers. I'm actually very good with computers as a rule in general. As in, well, it's not one of my weaknesses. But I'm so hacked that I have no way. The only way I can sometimes print stuff out is if I go through this long, convoluted process of, downloading it, then moving it to a USB, and then going to Staples, and then printing it out. And then that would still mean, and then I'd have to mail it, which would cause a delay. And then, how do I get a copy of a complaint I mailed? Or I have.
We would.
Go ahead.
We would mail it back to you.
Right. And so, given, that's the grounds for, and I also wanted the ability to go on the record with an officer and to make sure that they understood my complaint. As Captain Bouchot in the video, you'll see, tried on multiple occasions to dismiss the merit of my complaint, but he was going by, I think I would have handled it the same way, or da-da-da-da, and I'm quoting him laws and policies. And I know law enforcement governs themselves under law, policy, and so forth, and not how they feel or their speculations. And so I want to make it clear that I want to have a chance to have my complaint reviewed or discussed, but I wasn't comfortable coming down to the station until I felt like I wasn't just going to end up. I mean, I've gone to police stations in my past to file a complaint, in Florida, and that's where I almost got arrested because I didn't realize I was talking too loud. And so, and like I told Captain Bouchot several times, I would like to be able to get services and engage your department without worrying. I said in the video, what I don't need after I've been the victim of a crime is for your officers to come and treat me like I'm stupid and be condescending and then lie to me about why they don't have an obligation to discharge their duties when they do. And ironically, I feel like he did just that. So since I'm sending you my long email preamble, I'm going to go ahead and cite some specific department violations now. That's the criminal part. And this should be pretty short and sweet. Captain Bouchot is your public information officer, correct?
Yes.
And he, so I would think he of all should be sensitive to some of these. So I'm filing under 317, policy 317, under discriminate and harassment in your policy manual. Discriminatory harassment under three comparisons with the 340, I believe. Policy 340. I have dysgraphia, and that's our part of writing out a complaint. As you can tell, I'm having trouble writing my own writing. I have, with my autism, dysgraphia. It's fine hand-eye coordination. movement, and so like if I write a thank you note, it looks like a psychotic death threat, 340, but it's communication with a person with a disability. 401, policy 401, bias-based policing. And I'll let IA read them in their entirety. I don't think you need me reading out them to you. 414, no, I'm sorry, scratch 414. 417, I am requesting, but this, I guess, gets into a second matter, or the previous matter. I'm requesting a copy of the body cam footage. Obviously, and the names. I'll admit I did not ask Captain Bouchot the names of the two officers, but I still don't have the names of the two officers that were involved in my original complaint. Can you identify? Well, Captain Bouchot, found the call, so they must, I'm sure, be in his report, the names of the officers, right?
Yeah, it sounds like there was video footage, body-worn camera footage available, so that information should be available, and I'm sure that's something that you can request. And
so I'm doing that. And I'm doing it. I know that California law historically has granted your department, law enforcement, an exemption from disclosing body cam footage. I did confirm with one of the two officers did have his body camera on. So there is body camera footage. I think we've established, and so I do know under I do. You weren't aware of that?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I couldn't hear.
I said I did at the time of the initial call. I did confirm when I saw that things were going south that one of the two officers confirmed he had his body camera on. So there is body camera footage, and I know that historically, law enforcement in California has been exempt from releasing body camera footage with the exception of some very extreme, like court matters. However, as you probably know, recent laws, they didn't seem to be noted in your policy meeting. The recent laws provide 3 grounds in which a person is entitled to a copy of their the body camera footage. One is in a case where that involves dishonesty by an officer, particularly if it is part of another crime. And so since in the original complaint the officer lied to me, and he would have knowingly lied to me about this, that it's illegal, claiming it's illegal for the Sheriff's Department to initiate a federal investigation, which me and Captain Bouchot both agreed, and me having spent a year and a half of, unfortunately, trying to research this stuff to kind of get my life back, that's a false statement, and any officer would know that. And so I am requesting that based on that is one of 3 exceptions that does entitle me to a copy of the body cam footage. I believe that I know that excessive fees have been done away with, but I am willing to pay any reasonable fees. So I am requesting a copy of the body camera footage. I didn't want to run a camera at that time, even though historically I do documentaries and I run cameras, because I know it does kind of introduce a degree of formality and perhaps can be perceived as bad faith. So unfortunately, but they had a crime. They witnessed a crime. They acknowledged they witnessed a crime. They sent me on a wild goose chase to the FBI that had no jurisdiction. And as they left me on my own to resolve the crime, with knowing there were criminals in my immediate proximity, I called the department maybe 8 months ago and requested a copy of the body camera footage, since I apparently have been left to investigate and so forth my own crimes. It's just stating that, look, here's the deal. I have proof that a network outside of my dwelling, in my immediate proximity, committed a cybercrime, an attack on my cell phone. It was witnessed and acknowledged by 2 of your officers. And as it's very hard with cyber crimes. The crimes I'm trying to work with your department now to resolve that I haven't yet filed. I'm keeping it real simple. Local stuff. Everything with these guys involves technology, but I told Rebecca we'll start with some vandalism on my car issues. With that in mind, I'm making a formal request for a copy of the body camera footage. I know that's nothing you are able to quickly email me or anything, and please do let me know if there are any reasonable fees or anything associated with that, but I'm just going to put that request in. So going through the rest of the policy violations against Bouchot, crime scene reporting records release. I'm requesting the disciplinary records of the 2 officers that.
Say that one more time. Your phone's cutting out.
Sure. My phone does that. I'm in 810. I think your policy manual once again is outdated, but I am requesting the disciplinary records of Kathleen Bouchot and the 2 officers that responded to my initial complaint. I believe under the newer California laws that I didn't see reflected in your manual, that when complaints such as the ones I've raised have been submitted, so long as they're not deemed frivolous, and if any of my complaints are deemed frivolous, I will be asking for a written basis, and I will challenge it. I understand parts of it. Okay, we're with you on this and this, but 340, okay. So I am requesting the disciplinary records of Kathleen Bouchot and the 2 unnamed officers in the original complaint. Let's see here. 1,000. So we already covered, on top of the obstruction of justice, it's also Department Policy 1003. Let's see here. I can't read that, so I'll skip that. 340.18 complaint. 340 prompt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Are you able to hear me still?
Okay, now I can.
Okay.
Now I can.
Okay, so under policy 340.3G, I believe, prompt access to resources, I think this falls, this policy, like I said, unfortunately, I'm relying on, like I said, I have no printer, and I can't have a screen up. So I have prompt access to resources. Any person who's a victim of a crime, I'm not is entitled to handouts and so forth, and any additional support the department can provide. I think in the long letter I will be replying to you with. I did express concern about violation of policy 340.3. That it wasn't until I had re-listened to the video that I believe I misunderstood the response I got. But before talking to Captain Bouchot, I had tried, it'll show in the video, requesting your ADA coordinator. And I guess what happened is the HR admin that initially, not you, that initially took my call, or, that was kind of the operator, said, when she started saying you can pick up a copy of, here or anything, and then I caught on she was referring to complaints, but I didn't, I think, so just note that I'm withdrawing. You apparently do have an ADA coordinator per your policy and law, right, Rebecca?
Okay. You spoke with her, right? Yes.
Yeah, right. So, so just note that was, I'm just forwarding you, including the people I was forwarding to. Note that I'm rescinding my concerns about an ADA coordinator. I misunderstood. Although it probably would have went a lot better for everyone if I had gotten transferred to her first rather than Captain Bouchot, but that's neither here nor there. However, Rebecca is the head of your human resource department.
She's a manager, yes.
Manager, and does HR, are they staffed 24/7 or only during normal business hours?
Normal business hours.
Okay,
When you'd be able to speak to someone.
so I'm requesting the department review their compliance about that there is to be a ADA coordinator on call. I believe they're supposed to work in conjunction with the shift commander at all times. So I'm just requesting, so other people with disabilities don't have as much trouble as I've had, that they look into that. But that's not formal. Okay, so we covered that, and we're almost there. We're almost there, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your patience. 326.4 complaint rules requires knowledge of all policies. We already established that policy. Valid I'll just give you a heads up. I believe your media policies, Captain Bouchot's domain, have been essentially deemed unconstitutional. That is, I am a independent journalist, and I did call Captain Bouchot. I didn't get a call back. I was going to ask him about these required credentials to have journalist privileges when interacting with your department. But since then, there's been, I think there might have been a Supreme Court ruling that, like, if you have a blog, you're a journalist. Like, independent journalists are now, in general, granted the same legal rights as a APA accredited journalist. So I'm just going to give your department a heads up on that one, in case I can't resolve my issues. I just take things public, and if they challenge me on my credentials, they're going to lose. And so TSU, Sheriff Service, okay, final complaints are, it looks like I spilt water, so I can't read that one. Purpose and scope, victim assistance. I'll just read these policies like I did with Bouchot and let IA look into them. I won't even go into the...
You're cutting out again.
Sorry.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm sorry. It's when I lean over.
Okay.
I'll just read you these final few without and let, just like I did with Bouchot, and let the IA look into them. So 322.3, crime victim liaison. As far as I X'd that out, and in either case, I feel like you've met that role. So scratch that. 322.4, crime victims, no handouts. No, scratch that. That did apply for the original. I do want to heavily emphasize 326.5, discharge of duties. I dripped water on this page, but it looks like part A, B, are, but Captain Bouchot, I feel, did not discharge his duties. I know I have R, B, looks like A, and then 326.16, general convert. So I feel that Captain Bouchot ought to be held to a very high standard on this particular one. 326.16, general conduct adversely affects public opinion, A and B. I will let the department decide if the videos reflect how they feel a person with a disability filing a serious complaint does represent the way their department believes it should conduct themselves. If not, I do want to I do want to add that to my complaint. And ironically, I'm not going to bash your department, but I'm sure you're aware there was an incident with a Black Lives Matter sign and some department personnel, and your public information officer, Captain Bouchot, appeared, I think, on maybe it was PBS, and he stated that he values people's First Amendment rights. I have, by the way, lost my First Amendment rights for all intents and purposes since March of 2019. That they value people's First Amendment rights, and that he doesn't believe that when a crime occurs, social workers and so forth should respond, that you need somebody that's going to keep you safe and all that kind of stuff, and that he feels communication, in his official press release, communication is essential with law enforcement being good communicators. So I think that is outrageous from a public information captain. And then, I'm sorry, since I spoke with the captain, let's see here. 18 USC 249, I think that's obstruction of justice penal code. 323.4, so we talked about hate. Can't read my notes, but we talked about looking into hate crime. And then also prior to department manual, I believe any criminal allegations that are deemed substantiated are to be forwarded to major crimes. As I was calling to file a federal second-degree felony, are you able to confirm whether or not a copy has been forwarded to major crimes?
I'm not able to confirm that.
Okay. I believe within 48 hours, certainly a reasonable amount of time, Captain Bouchot did know I was a person with a disability. I am under law classified as a vulnerable adult, and under the California Lantern Men Act, people with developmental disabilities, and it makes it clear you don't get to say, well, because you can, kind of verbalize yourself, okay, you don't qualify. I have in my bag and multiple inpatient diagnoses, etc., autism spectrum disorder, among other things, that if and I made it clear to him that at the beginning of the call, I didn't feel comfortable, that I've been the victim of many crimes I wanted to report and didn't feel safe reporting, and that I was trying to engage the department to make sure that it wasn't a systemic thing. Captain Bouchot confirmed that it may be a systemic thing, but in either case, he did know I was a vulnerable adult, and per the policy manual that it's in there. Let's see here. Reasonable. Okay. So is it? Wow, did he luck out with all the water I spilled and everything? In the policy manual regarding potential abuse, including isolation, I've been, but not amongst other things, if there's suspected abuse of a vulnerable adult, that within, I think it's within 48 hours, but within a timely manner, that Adult Protective Services be contacted. Are you able to confirm that he did, in fact, file a complaint or concern with them?
I do not know if he did.
Can you look into that?
Let's see. Yep, I can. I'm writing this down.
Okay, thank you. And then it looks under take steps not to escalate, isolate. Okay, I think I control, watch, commander, make effort to communicate. So just so you know, it's policy 340.2. I don't know if I named it. Must make effort to communicate effectively with persons with disability. No denial of rights or services. 340.3G. Ensure prompt and equitable resolution of complaints. Once again, I didn't get anywhere or hear anything until I contacted you, and you've been exceptional. And then I'll end with noting.
Hello?
Yes. I'm sorry. It's when I my phone's losing reception when I lean over to try to read my handwriting. I'll end with noting that I did read the department's mission statement, value statement. Sheriff, is it Ayub? Ayub. Everything that the department claims to stand for and believe in, and so going with the conduct unbefitting of an officer and adversely affecting public policy. Just the common sense check. I between the two, the video from the body camera and then the video I'm going to send you of Captain Bouchot. I want to encourage the department to juxtapose, what they start their policy manual with and what's on their webpage as far as their basic mission statement, core values, the sheriff's personal statement, and the way I've recorded my interactions with your department. So that's all.
Okay, I think I got it all. So what I'll do is, just like I mentioned before, so you will receive notification that we have received your complaint. I know you said that you prefer to get that via email, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I will turn this in. Now, once it is generated, so it has to be reviewed. Once it's reviewed and determined that it will be an actual investigation, that's when I'm given this to process. And then once it's processed, then you will get notification. So it won't necessarily happen today because I have to wait for those steps to happen before I send confirmation to you with your case number.
Okay. But what about, once again, what about the original complaint you generate?
For the first one that you called in about?
No,
for Captain Bouchot?
Yes, for Captain Bouchot, right?
Yeah, so I said that I would get you something confirmation. I'll do that within the hour, but now it'll be within the next hour.
Oh no, I got it. I know Captain. I'm getting a copy of Captain Bouchot's complaint, but I'm saying, and I did just drop a lot on you. So I know I've left you some homework. But what about a copy of simply, I know, it hasn't yet been not deemed frivolous, for example, and so forth, or checked for merit, but the copy that you're generating, there's a gray area here because I know you're not a sworn officer, but simply just a copy of the complaint you're generating.
Yes, you'll get confirmation. I can send you an email confirmation to let you know what we spoke about. If that
whatever you're forwarding for review.
Okay. Yep. Then I'll send you a copy of that then.
Okay, but I know that I would deem the end of the business day or even the earlier half of tomorrow reasonable because I gave you a lot. I gave you a lot to write. But you will within the hour get me, or within the next hour or so, get me Captain Bouchot.
Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer, you're awesome. As you know, and also just so you know, your policy manual suggests you guys record complaints whenever possible. Maybe your phones don't have that capability. I'm not publishing our call on the public domain. However, if you want a copy to fact check anything, a copy can be, just as a good faith gesture made to you. Just know that that's something I'm happy to provide you with. If you'd like it, I will not provide it in any way that adversely affects your career, but just so you know.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and you're doing a great job. And I told Rebecca that, as I promised, and I'll continue to tell people that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Bye.
Okay. Bye.